Steven! Why do you think Max Crosby loves cigars?
Because it's Victory Monday.
Oh no, Steven, you forget. Because he's ballsy. He doesn't take any shit from no one.
What's that?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Remember that old clip of, I think we played it on the show where he's smoking a stogie and he's like, this is why I smoke stogies.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm ballsy. I don't take any shit from no one, especially my wife.
You know, I had that saved in my bookmarks for a while.
What, that clip?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but I had it saved right at the top of my internet page, and sometimes it would just click right to it.
Well, I would have taken that, him saying that, or even a go Chargers go over him feeding his donkey.
There was none of that.
I know.
No Go Chargers go.
He was just plugging his book the whole time, and it was talking over plays. And believe me, I love me some Arnold, but not the greatest guest for a Manning cast. I'll say that.
There's nobody should be on the Manning cast. They don't need guests.
They don't. They do not. Like us, we don't need guests. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. Who needs Steinmetz?
Did you hear at the end when they were interviewing Trevor Lawrence? I'd stopped paying attention to the game at that point, and I was only listening. But like they went through, and then Peyton's just like, "All right, well, we've you want to know how bad these offenses are? We made it through the 12 scripted questions, so let's just talk some football, Trevor." Why didn't you do that the whole time then, instead of having these scripted questions?
Real quick, is your mic on?
Is it? Damn it. Oh, crap. Actually, nothing's on right now. Not even my... Hang on. Whoop.
Are we even live right now?
Oh, we're live.
Okay.
We're live.
Okay. Now I can hear you put your mic on.
Yeah. Now I'm going to get my camera on as well.
Spend a lot of money on that Shure mic, Steven.
I know. But I also forgot because I was into a rush, so I forgot my camera too. And should be good to go. All right. Here we go.
What setting is that?
It's no setting. It's just a different camera.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. You know what? I haven't been very good about watching the Manning cast like I have in the past. Like the first year it came out, I watched it a lot because Steve Levy. But now it's Buck and Aikman. I forget about it most of the time because I just think that it's a actual good broadcast now.
Yeah, it's at least they're featuring their opinions, and Aikman is coming on a little stronger than he used to.
Oh yeah, did you hear the post game interview with Scott Van Pelt?
I actually didn't.
He was just basically saying like, and I agree with him. He was just like, why does everybody think the Jets are a good team, and why do they think that they could win with Aaron Rodgers right now? That offensive line sucks.
You think that's what Robert Saleh was alluding to after the game?
Probably. We'll get to it all. We got a lot to talk about. Week 9 games. Raider game, no Niner game. They had the bye, but Chase Young was introduced yesterday as he was rocking number 92, and he's happy to be with Nick Bosa, and he ain't mad at the decision to trade him from Washington, even though they won their game. But yeah, we'll a little less Niners this week. We're going to focus more on the Raiders, and deservedly so. They won their game. Antonio Pierce 1-0 as head coach of the Raiders. So we'll get to that. But before we do that, Steven, I finally lost. Finally lost in picks. I think it was fairly close, but a few snafus by me. Oh, you know what really did me in? Was the pick in Tampa Bay. And C.J. Stroud came back and won that game. Good for C.J. Stroud. What was the final here? Well, regardless, let's see here. Yep, you beat me by 3. Wait a minute.
Tough scene.
Hang on. Yeah, okay, yeah, you beat me by 3. So I have to do the hot sauce tonight.
Dang. Sucks.
I know. Was it 3 weeks in a row for you?
Yeah.
And I got the Apollo last dab here. I did this the first time around. So and out of the two, between this and the DeBomb Evolution, this was hotter in my opinion. So I still want to get the Ghost Pepper one, Ghost Pepper X. Or no, Pepper X. Pepper X, the last dab experience, whatever they call it. It's I'm making the purchase. It's going to be in the mail soon, so you'll see me doing this, and you'll see me doing this one and the ghost pepper one going forward, or not ghost pepper, pepper X. Jesus.
What are you eating it on? What are you using?
I'm going to use
Ah,
popcorner
popcorner.
made by Breaking Bad, Jesse and Walt.
Okay.
So
So
this is kind of a thin chip, so I'll be getting most of the sauce on it.
So instead of doing like a hot sauce breakdown of the game, I wanted to do something different here.
Oh,
After you take a bite, I am going to ask you a question about something that happened in your childhood, and I want you to walk me through it.
all right. Do you want to do that before we get to the Raider stuff?
Yeah, I want you to eat the hot sauce, and I want you to walk me through what the hell happened because I heard the story earlier, and I need
Oh
to,
my
I need
God.
to, I need to hear it from you. I need to.
My dad talks way too much on that fucking show.
That he does, but you know what? You're gonna. He talks too much on his own radio show.
Yeah, about shit he doesn't even remember very well.
Okay, so I want to get the real story here because crack me up. So, yeah, what time was I? What was time was I? So I ended up going to get lunch with a friend after work, and I took the wrong BART train home.
Been there.
So ended up at the Coliseum after looking down at my phone. It's like, damn. So got to Walnut Creek a little later than usual and caught the old caboose pistol with your pops. So he had a story, and I need you to do the hot sauce first, and then I want you to explain this story.
Okay.
So
So
I mean, I'll set the stage, and I'll set what I heard, just very quick synopsis, and then you tell me the real story.
Okay, then I'll wait to eat this. But this is I got the popcorner. That's quite a bit of dab on here.
It's a good dab.
So I'm not fucking around here. All right,
Good
Steven.
size dab.
Please tell the listeners, basically one Ernie tonight. Tell Ernie. And we should have a full house tonight. There's no sports on. It's election night. The NBA doesn't play games, even though I think they could set up voting booths at the stadiums, but whatever. Tell me, Steven, what did you hear from Greg Papa on something from my childhood today?
Yeah, so when he was working as the play-by-play guy for the Spurs, he told me about the time that you were in the same elevator as David Robertson and Tim Duncan.
David
Robinson, excuse me. I said Robertson. Good Lord, thinking about Liverpool.
Liverpool.
No, Robinson. And shout out to the Admiral. But he said that you were 7 years old, and then you proceeded to call them the Jolly Green Giants, and then left the elevator and ended up going back into the locker room after the game to apologize. And the Admiral, well, for lack of a better term, admired the way that you stood up like a man in front of them in the locker room and apologized about calling them the Jolly Green Giants. So as you eat the chip, I want you to explain what happened. You called Tim Duncan and David Robinson the Jolly Green Giants? What happened here? Is your dad fabricating this story?
For the most part, he is correct.
Oh. Ooh.
So it was the Nuggets
Oh.
and
Hope that tastes good.
Spurs
Hey.
around, I want to say like 98.
Oh.
And my dad was the voice of the Spurs at the time.
Uh-huh.
I'm walking in the elevator. I'm very young.
Uh-huh.
David Robinson comes in.
Mhm.
Just David Robinson. Tim Duncan was not a part of it.
Uh-huh.
He gets in. I say under my breath, wow, he's as tall as the Jolly Green Giant. My dad shoots daggers at me. David Robinson turns around, chuckles. We get off the elevator. My dad is floored at me,
Oh.
saying, "You embarrassed me, blah, 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 blah. You have to apologize after the game." So after the game, I walk into the locker room. I'm, 7 years old, so I'm the same height as I am right now. And I walk up to David Robinson. I say, Mr. Robinson, I want to apologize for what I said to you prior to the game. Mr. Robinson, David, the Admiral says, takes a real man to apologize. Thank you, little man. Signed me an autograph, shook my hand, and then Tim Duncan proceeded to spray deodorant all over me. Just like a fun gesture. That's what happened. Tim Duncan wasn't in the elevator too.
Oh.
It was just David Robinson.
Oh, okay. Okay. So wait, you were just standing there, called him. So it was mostly true, except the Tim Duncan part.
Yeah, no, it was, but he was tall.
Yeah.
He was tall. So the Jolly Green Giant's not the worst thing in the world, I would say.
No, and you're 7 years old. I thought it'd be more of a funny thing, but your dad like got super nervous or what?
My dad always does that stuff. I remember being at a hotel in San Diego, and Larry Bear, the Giants president, comes by, and I'm wearing a Raiders hat. My dad worked for the Raiders at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry says, "Good to see you, Greg. Derek, like the hat." And of course, as soon as Larry Bear walks away, my dad goes, "You had to wear a Raiders hat today, huh?" Just like, Jesus. We're supposed to wear a hat everywhere we go in case we run into somebody you know?
Yeah. You think David, you think Mr. Robinson would remember who you are, or remember the story if you
God,
were to bring that up?
No,
You don't think so?
not at all.
I think he would. I think it's very rare.
You know, you know how many people he encounters on a daily basis?
Yeah, I understand that, but not many people would just straight up call him the Jolly Green Giant in an elevator.
I'm sure. I'm sure that's not the worst thing he's heard.
No, it's not the worst thing he's heard. I think it's a funny story. I'm sure he'd laugh at it. And if you said, "Hey, I'm Greg's son. I was 7 years old at the time. We were riding in the elevator with you, and I just happened to call you the Jolly
David
Green
Robinson doesn't
Giant."
probably even remember who Greg Papa is.
I'm just saying. I think he would. I think the Admiral has better memory than you're giving him credit for.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that was a learning experience, and I'm glad my dad tells the story still to this day.
Yeah, I forgot how it was brought up. It was something random that they were talking about.
They were talking about the kid that was calling out LeBron during the game.
Oh, that's
and
right.
my dad was like, "I got a story about Derek being a little shit too."
Yeah. Yeah.
What I
hot sauce pretty well.
What I did appreciate today was my dad goes, "I don't know if he was saying something racial there," and I was like, "What are you talking about? Don't
You were
Jesus.
7. That's what made me laugh. He's like, "I don't know if it was racial or what." And I'm like, "You were 7
He
years
was the
old."
Jolly Green Giant. He was a green man."
Dude, when I was 7 years old, I thought racist jokes were Reese's jokes. I thought they were literally saying Reese's when I heard that. Like, like
What do these
racial.
people got against peanut butter cookies?
Like, what's a racist
Or-
comment? What do you mean racist? A Reese's comment? What's a Reese's comment? I don't get it.
Yeah. No, David Robinson is a salt of the earth, great man. And yeah, that was an awesome experience, despite the fact that I was, said something I shouldn't have. But I'm glad that I got to meet him and to know going forward, don't say stuff like that when you're in an elevator with athletes.
So where were you? Were you up to like his knees? Like how tall were you?
Dude, I was 7 years old. I was all of, I don't know, 4'8". What's a normal height for a 7-year-old?
I don't know. He could have easily just kneed you right in the forehead.
Oh,
without even moving.
He could have drop kicked me out of the elevator.
Oh, he should have.
And that turns into a whole new thing. David Robinson, the Admiral, kicks a 7-year-old out the elevator.
Yeah.
Everyone thanks David Robinson. All right.
Damn, he's only 58 years old. Can you believe that?
Yeah. I mean, the era he played, early 90s.
Yeah. I suppose like these guys are so much younger than we think, because like David Robinson's just always looked like a 35, 40-year-old like man. You know what I mean? Like, and so I guess I don't know, just seeing that he's 58 kind of just took me back right now.
Well, I want to say his son played tight end at Notre Dame or something.
Did he?
I want to say that. I could be totally wrong.
That's
All
a
right,
little too
Stephen.
much. That's a little too much research that I got to do in once. I can't figure that out.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you and my dad had a good laugh at that today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people did. It's a great story.
Sure. Anyway, Raiders win 30-6 in their first game post Josh McDaniels.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Antonio Pierce. See, I could be wrong. I could tell David Robinson he's the Jolly Green Giant, and I can say that I was wrong about Antonio Pierce from a week ago. I think I held a little too much of a grudge against him for what he said about the Raiders. Aram texted me during our show. We didn't play the clip. There was the day that this went down, last Wednesday. David Carr, excuse me, was talking about playing for the Giants back in 2009 and the whole experience of kicking the Raiders' ass. And they wanted, I forget what the situation was, but Antonio Pierce came in and told David Carr, don't disrespect that team like that. That's my team. That's a team that I grew up with. And even though that I'm thinking about David Robinson, even though that Antonio Pierce said what he said about the Raiders back in the day, it seems that he has a true respect for the organization from growing up at Compton and being a childhood fan of the team. So this is a lifelong dream for him to be the coach of the Raiders. And I commend him. He said all the right things at the press conference. He, after the game, said all the right things in the locker room. I give him a ton of praise for everything that went on in that game. So just want to give, kudos to him and what he did in his first game as head coach.
Yeah, man. He galvanized them. Like they needed somebody because I didn't realize how low their morale was in that locker room. I think back to what Draymond Green said. I know we talked about it last week, but Draymond Green talking about chemistry. It just sucked going into work every day. Well, Draymond might have created a little bit of that atmosphere himself, but this is a totally separate situation. Like I can't imagine what it was like for the Raiders going into work. Like Renfro said, having to walk on eggshells and do all those different things. And then like anytime they're probably not even meaning to take shots at McDaniels. They're probably doing that unconsciously. But anytime I hear these guys talk after the game, I think I saw some quotes from like Trey Tucker and Josh Jacobs. It's like, it's almost a subtle message that this is what McDaniels wasn't doing. And this is why we weren't successful. And in this game, we fed Josh Jacobs. That was our MO. We're going to get back to what made us successful last year. First and foremost, we're going to start with the run, and they just dominated that side of the ball from the get-go, really, from the first drive. And then guys like Trey Tucker just saying we played like there was nothing to lose. We didn't play scared. We weren't playing like we're thinking about what could happen as opposed to just playing free. And I just can't help but think of those previous Raiders teams where like maybe they didn't play free and maybe McDaniels was constantly thinking about what could happen instead of focusing like in the moment. So just a great overall team win. And the way that Antonio Pierce is just letting these guys kind of be themselves, I think that's what they need right now.
No, he's the total anti Josh McDaniels. He's, like you said, Steven, galvanizing the team. He's motivating them. You could see in the post-game press conference or the post-game, locker room speech that Davante Adams is staring at him intently. So is Hunter Renfrow, the whole team. I'll get to the whole cigar celebration because I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I'll get to that a little later.
Oh, you.
I know. I'm going to be a killjoy here, but I'll explain my piece later.
Yes, you are.
So as far as the game, Aiden O'Connell played well and he proved that he should have started in that Chicago game because he played fine. And right now, he is the best quarterback on this team.
Mm-hmm.
He is, because Jimmy Garoppolo, for whatever reason, I think the foot's still bothering him, and he's just a turnover machine, and he cannot throw deep, and Aiden O'Connell can. I like that Josh Jacobs finally looked like himself from a season ago, his highest rushing total of the year, 2 yards away from getting 100 yards. Hunter Renfrow was involved. Davante Adams, even though he did not have a huge game, he finished with 4 catches for 34 yards. Not great numbers, but it was his attitude after the game that I was really happy about because he could have pulled the same act that he had before when they were winning games and saying, I'm not getting the ball, it's not looking right. He was happy with the way it looked, so it didn't matter that he didn't go for 7 catches and 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did what he needed to do, and they put up 30 points, and he's happy with that. And I think Raider fans were happy with that. I was at the Athletic Club this past weekend watching the games in Oakland, and let me tell you, Oakland still loves the Raiders, despite everything that they've been through with losing the Raiders and now going to lose the A's. And I saw everything that went down at City Hall today. Sad. I don't see the A's staying, but it is what it is. The Oakland still loves the Raiders, and everybody was cheering, and everybody's in a good mood because times have changed. Josh McDaniels is not doing the same anemic offense that we've been seeing for the last year and a half. And no, it was a very good effort by the Raiders and good sign of things going forward. I thought the defense played fantastic. Max Crosby having what 3.5 sacks.
Yeah.
So great performance all around. I thought it was very good for them to turn the page on the Josh McDaniels chapter with this performance.
I forgot Jimmy Garoppolo was on the team. Honestly, like that's where it ended up. Like I don't think he has a place on this roster anymore. I think they have their set style that they're going to go with. They're going to go with AOC, I think, for the remainder of the year. I don't see there being any other changes. Shout out to the offensive coordinator for just getting the ball into Jacob's hands. Like that's the first thing. But we'd also be remiss if we didn't mention that, Daniel Jones ended up getting hurt, and Danny/Tommy DeVito was just lost out there.
Oh,
hey, offensive line, what are you doing here? You're not helping me out, huh?
Yeah. Let me just say that the defense played a great game. I'm not taking anything away. Terry Wilson even getting a sack. Max Crosby, probably his best performance, played possessed out there. But let's be real. In the words of Matthew McConaughey in Tropic Thunder, it was like pistol whipping a blind kid. Like, come on. Daniel Jones. You're thinking about that one?
No, I was just thinking I got the TiVo.
Well, that's a good line too. But you remember the part where he's talking about the press he's getting for Simple Jack, and he's like, can't sugarcoat it, Tugger Nuts. It's like pistol whipping a blind kid. Jesus. Yeah. Once Daniel Jones went out of the game, and I felt bad for him, it was clear that he tore his ACL. No contact. He fell to the ground, and then the very next play, he fell to the ground once again. Sad for him. He's been getting a lot of ridicule this season, but he'll be back. He's made his money. Tommy DeVito. Not looking good. It's hard to see a fellow Paisano out there struggling, but it is what it is with the Giants at this point. I totally forgot about this with the whole storyline. Antonio Pierce coaching against, his first game as head coach against his former team that he won a Super Bowl with. So good for him. But yeah, I was expecting the Raiders to go out there with I picked the Giants to win. I will admit that. I did not think the rah-rah stuff was going to win with the Raiders, but it did. And I think it helped with the opponent too. But I thought that the Raiders were going to go down and score right on the opening drive because they had this rejuvenation and they were all ready to go. And, they're going to prove that we don't need Josh McDaniels. And they did. And I was thinking maybe they go a little stagnant the rest of the way and the Giants would find a way to win with like a last-second field goal. And it would be heartbreaking, but that's just the way it is. Nope. They dominated the whole game. I think having Tommy DeVito out there really changed the game. But good for the Raiders. A win is a win.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm taking away, well, not the one thing. The one thing on defense is that Max Crosby's just an absolute stud, and I really think he deserves Defensive Player of the Year consideration. But that's just me. I think he's not single-handedly, but I think he's had a hand in maybe at least. I think 2 or 3 of these wins you can attribute to just the play of Max Crosby and the motor that he had. The other thing though is this does not make a difference because the Giants do have a crappy offensive line and they were playing with a backup quarterback who really just didn't want to do anything after making his first read. As soon as he did like a 3-step drop, he'd take a look, see that a guy wasn't open, then he'd just try to make something out of nothing by trying to run the football. Like there was no chance. But one thing you can't, one thing you can't get fooled on is Trey Tucker in the speed that he has. This dude just blows by cornerbacks. I know Ziegler's not here anymore, but boy, did they really hit on that pick. I think Trey Tucker's an absolute stud.
Yeah, I get the whole mentality of them not having fun with Josh McDaniels. And even I think Devontae, where was Devontae last night? He was at like a UNLV basketball game or something where he was
Yeah.
mic'd up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was talking to the ref and he basically said like things are good now. And believe me, I get it. No one likes a killjoy. No one likes someone that's gonna ruin all the fun. I'll bring up the story that I DM'd to you, Steven. It
Uh-huh.
sounded like the Raiders unloaded on Josh McDaniels after or prior to the Lions game and
Mm-hmm.
just said, "This is what's wrong with the team. This is what's wrong with you. This is what we need to do." And then Antonio Pierce gave a speech about how in 2007 when they beat the Patriots, we had to come together as a team and we weren't going to be, fearful of anybody. We were going to go with, we were going to play with more joy. Tom Coughlin kind of let the whole, if you're, on time, your late thing go. They were just playing with joy, and that's what kept them in the end to beat the Patriots, undefeated Patriots. And that really got a rise out of the team when he told that speech. And then they went off to practice, and apparently Josh McDaniels said to Antonio Pierce, "Don't you ever talk badly about the Patriots?" Which I'm like, that's ridiculous. If that's true, this is a report by Jay Glazer. If that's true, then that's all you need to know about Josh McDaniels.
Mm-hmm.
He's a killjoy. He'll kill the moment of a person doing something for the betterment of the team to be like, "Hey, that was my former team. You shut your mouth."
Yeah.
If that's true, that sucks.
Yeah. Didn't even bother to take like that shows you not even that, not even the Patriots thing. Him not even willing to face the team after that. Like
Yeah.
that's the point where it's just like, okay, there's something clearly off here. There's a disconnect. The whole thing was a mess. And, I see the post from Jeff Howe, who was a Patriots guy. And he wrote for The Athletic or writes for The Athletic. And I'm sure that he has a relationship with McDaniels. And McDaniels found out when he was trick-or-treating with his kids and had to call them to break the news or something, or had to call them back so the news could get broken after they were done. Okay, I feel bad for him that it happened on a momentous occasion like trick-or-treating, but like this dude was wrong for the team and they needed to make that move in that moment. Sorry that it happened around Halloween time. It's like, I don't know what they're trying to get out of that. It's just like, it happened, move on. McDaniels wasn't doing anything but just harming the team, harming his employer, the ones who are paying him whatever it was, $65 million or whatever crazy contract that was. And this is interesting. Ernie points out, apparently Ziegler didn't want Jimmy. And that comes from a Hondo Carpenter piece.
Oh.
He did a Q&A, and he basically said that he will, like Hondo, he's very calculated here. He's like, there's plenty of things that they disagreed with. I'll have 10 of them at the end of the season. But right now, I'll tell you one. They vehemently disagreed on adding Jimmy Garoppolo. Apparently, Ziegler didn't really want him.
See, okay, so that goes back to my point. I still don't know if they should have fired Dave Ziegler. Could there have been a way to keep him and have Josh McDaniels be fired? I know that it was looked at as them as a package deal, and I even said that. That's why I didn't think they were going to fire McDaniels.
Uh-huh.
But I got to be honest. There's a lot of talent on this team, and it hasn't equated to wins. But I don't really think Ziegler has missed on a lot of his selections. Tyree Wilson's still growing up. Trayvon Merrick, he didn't draft him, so I'm trying to think of who he drafted.
Exactly, you can't really tell because it really wasn't that great of a draft.
Well, but they traded away the first overall, or they traded away their first round pick or their second round pick for Devontae Adams. I don't know, man. I still think they should have kept Dave Ziegler. I think this was kind of a sweeping move because this is Josh McDaniels' guy, but couldn't Dave have been a part of the process and hired the new coach?
Sure, he could have.
But then again, if you're trying to get, if the whole point of this is to get Jim Harbaugh, or maybe stick with Antonio Pierce, who knows? It's hard to deal with a general manager who, picks the next coach, or the next coach doesn't agree with the general manager. That's what happened with John Gruden and Reggie McKenzie. I don't know. It would have been tough, but I think there could have been a way for Ziegler to remain with the Raiders.
Yeah. I think there could have too, but now they just gotta move on. I don't know who their GM is going to be next year. They got to do a complete overhaul. I wonder if Ziegler though would have just, ripped that Band-Aid out. Because another piece from Honda, or another question from Hondo's piece, is asking if Ziegler would have fired McDaniels if he had the opportunity. And even though he would have had to go through Mark Davis first. Hondo says, yeah, he thinks he would have, just because team morale was that low. But
We'll see that.
yeah, it might have been unwarranted. But I don't know with the talent though. I don't know, because the 2022 draft, I mean, Dylan Parham was their first ever pick. Tyree Wilson has a lot to prove to me. I'm sorry, but like, you're halfway into the season and you still haven't shown much yet. Like, I need to see a lot before I could actually call him a player with potential as opposed to a miss. Because right now I'm trending towards the miss category. But they did prove everyone wrong with Aiden O'Connell, because anyone who thinks they know anything about college football ended up thinking that Aiden O'Connell was going to stink just because he was a statue with Purdue. And he looks like he's an NFL capable quarterback right now. So they at least hit on that.
Okay. Amongst the defensive players that were drafted in the first round, which one of these guys you think have really shown out this season?
Mm-hmm.
Will Anderson.
Yes.
What are his numbers right now?
I don't know what his numbers are, but he's part of a Texans defense that's an absolute beast.
Okay, but is he making an impact though? Because I haven't heard his name a lot making plays.
Let me look it up.
Okay, well, while you do that,
he's only had 2 sacks this year.
Okay, and how many does Tyree Wilson have? 2?
Yeah.
Okay, Devin Witherspoon. He's actually making a huge impact on the Seahawks, and he was a guy that I was hoping the Raiders would get, but he got drafted early. Tyree Wilson at 7. Jalen Carter obviously making a lot of noise. Lucas Van Ness with the Packers. I don't think he's done shit with them right now. Will McDonald with the Jets is not making the impact that I thought he was going to. Emmanuel Forbes for the Commanders, not doing a whole lot. Christian Gonzalez, probably your leader as Defensive Rookie of the Year, because he was doing great until he got injured. He's out for the season. Jack Campbell playing well with the Lions. Kalijah Cansey doing okay with the Buccaneers. See if there's any other defensive players here. Deontay Banks for the Giants. I think he got 1 pick this year so far. Mozzie Smith with the Cowboys, not doing well. Miles Murphy barely playing with the Bengals. Brian Breezy with the Saints, not doing a lot. Nolan Smith with the Eagles, not doing a lot. Felix Nduku Umaza with the Kansas City Chiefs, not doing a lot. So my point to you, Steven, is just wait. Because Tyree Wilson, I understand, is trending in a bad direction. He got his second sack last week. It takes time for these guys to grow. So I would just say, simmer down now. Calm down. He'll be okay.
That's also because you thought he'd be a good pick and you want to be right about it.
I do, because he has the arm length. I think that he has the capability of being a sack strip monster. I do. So until dude, is Quentin Johnson has he done anything with the Chargers? We thought he was going to be a monster with them.
I didn't think he was going to be a monster with them. That was you.
Okay, well, yes, that was me. Okay, but what about Zay Flowers having a good season? I don't know. I just think a lot of rookies are slow out the gate, and that's just what happens sometimes.
I just don't think so when they're the 7th overall pick. I needed to see more.
That's fair. Okay, well, remember how long it took for Khalil Mack to get into his zone?
But you could tell right off the bat, Khalil Mack
was hot sauce is fucking up my voice. It sounded like I had like a frog in there. Good Lord.
You could tell, though, that Khalil Mack was going to be a difference maker at some point. Tyree Wilson's get off is not where it needs to be. He's not beating offensive linemen one-on-one. Like, he hasn't created much push to the quarterback. I'm just not seeing it right now. Not seeing it.
And that's entirely fair. But let's see. Trayvon Merrick playing well, would you say, this season? Better?
Better.
Okay. It takes time, Steven. It takes time. To get to that, to go back to the Josh McDaniels story that Jake Glazer was reporting, apparently after that meeting, Josh McDaniels was such a shell of himself that he just removed himself from the practice. He just didn't do anything. He didn't call plays. He was basically pouting. And that's what ultimately, and of course, what happened in Detroit, but that's what led to his firing. And, it's unfortunate that he got fired while he was trick-or-treating his kids. No one likes that. That's not great. No one wants to hear that. But it was necessary. And it sounded like he was ruling with an iron fist. And it sounds as if, I don't know where I read this, but it sounded as if Mark Davis was the one pushing for Derek Carr to be out. And Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler were actually the ones considering bringing him back. That sounds crazy at this point. Actually contradicts what Hondo Carpenter wrote. And if Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels were opposed to the Jimmy Garoppolo signing, then I don't know, man. I would have liked to see Dave Ziegler do something with this team if he was given the opportunity to pick the next head coach, because I think he was making the right moves. I just don't think Josh McDaniels was the right coach.
Well, you know what, man? I think we can just all agree with the way that it played out. No matter what, in the grand scheme of things, Mark Davis chose wrong. I mean, maybe Ziegler was a good choice, whatever. But if him and McDaniels were a package deal, then McDaniels was not worth that entire package.
Yeah.
Like that team that he had, it was a playoff team.
Yep.
It was a playoff team, and he turned them into 6 wins. And we all know what's happened this year. So I think just whatever, whatever minutia we try to get down to, I think there's no mistaking it. Mark Davis made the wrong pick, and now we have to rely on Mark Davis to make the right pick. And I know Antonio Pierce is fighting for his job, and everything's riding high right now. But like afterwards, the Raiders, where I had the schedule pulled up, but now I just dropped it.
Jets.
Because I was looking at, they have the Jets, which, oh boy, night game. Shout out to the Jets. But then after
Sunday
that,
night game. Good Lord.
Then after that, you have Miami. By the way, this is Raiders at home against the Jets next this Sunday. Then the Dolphins in Miami. Then they'll travel back to Vegas to take on the Chiefs. Then they'll stay in Vegas to take on the Vikings and Chargers. Then they're back to take on the Chiefs, the Colts, and the Broncos. So I don't know. What do you think? What if you had to guess? Let's say, I mean, what do we got? 8 games remaining here. What do you think their record would have to be if they wanted to make Antonio Pierce the full-time coach?
Ooh.
2 against the Chiefs, 1 against the Dolphins, 1 against the Chargers, Colts, Vikings, Broncos, Jets. I mean, you have 4 games where I think that the Raiders should be the better team. I think they should be than the Vikings, Colts, Broncos, and Jets. So I think 4-4.
Don't sleep on the Colts.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think though 4-4 is the bare minimum for what he needs.
I think it has to look a certain way. And I will say this. I think Mark Davis is going to be really cognizant of what his players think about Antonio Pierce, because he does not want to make the same mistake. And it's now looked like as a mistake, but because of Rich Bisaccia taking them to the playoffs and then saying, thanks, Rich, we're good, we're going with Josh. And I agreed with the decision. I think you did too. I think most Raider fans agreed with it, but I think probably in hindsight, a lot of team morale was killed by that. What?
Just thinking in hindsight now.
Oh,
back
yeah.
to all of that.
Yep. So I think that Antonio Pierce actually is very much in the mix. I don't know what's going on with Jim Harbaugh with Michigan. I don't know. I mean, if he gets suspended with the NCAA, that suspension will carry over to the NFL. He's not going to avoid this. If this is, going to be a price to pay for what's going on with Connor Stallions. I don't know, Steven. I couldn't give you a number on how many games he has to win. I think that the team just has to be competitive in these games.
No, they need more than competitive. They need W's. I'm thinking at least 6-2. I'm thinking 6, or not at least. I think 6-2 would probably bode well for his future as head coach. I think it would. I think anything less than that, I think he's out.
Okay, well, do you really feel okay? Like, what do you want in a head coach? Obviously you want leader of men, and I think Antonio Pierce says check that off the list. But also, game planning and scheme is really big with me.
Yeah.
And the days of having a defensive-minded coach are kind of going by the wayside. I even wonder about Sean McDermott's time with the Buffalo Bills. I wonder about Bill Belichick's time with the Patriots. Mike Vrabel with the Titans. Those are great coaches, but we're seeing a trend in the opposite direction. Guys that call plays offensively. You're 1-1 with the quarterback. I just don't know if this rah-rah, this galvanizing of the team is going to last as far as coaching up against, like, Antonio Pierce looked great against Brian Daboll and Tommy DeVito, but when he goes up against Andy Reid, how is that going to look?
You know what I need in a head coach now? I've kind of changed my tune on it. I do think that there should be at least a forward-thinking offensive mind on their staff. But I think as the head coach, I'm more looking at the qualities of their in-game decision-making and their ability to get players to buy in.
Yeah.
Buy-in's so important. I was listening to a discussion about this around the Milwaukee Bucks and their defense and how there's really like no organization on the defensive end. And how players just don't seem bought in to the scheme that they're trying to run. Like, I think I know we're comparing apples to oranges because it's basketball to football, but almost an apple to an orange. You have the orange basketball, and you have the football that looks like a shallot. So I guess we'll go with shallots to orange.
I guess you're right, Steven.
I guess I am. but no, that's where I'm at now. Because we've seen these offensive minds, dude. We've seen Mike McDaniel and Zach Taylor and Sean McVay. And Sean McVay is kind of an outlier because he did win the Super Bowl in 2021. But like, offensive minds are going to get you to where you need to be, but are they going to actually win you those games? I don't know, because right now, like the Miami Dolphins, even though they seem to be one of the best offenses we've ever seen, some of the most innovative offenses that we've ever seen, for whatever reason, they can't beat good teams. And, when it comes to the playoffs, there's a reason why we've seen the Andy Reids just win time after time. It's due to game time decisions and how they handle everyone on their roster. Everyone loves playing for Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And everyone's bought in. So long story short, that's really where I'm at now. I'm not so much about we need a forward-thinking offensive play caller as the head coach type of guy.
I'm mixed on it because I do think you need a leader of men. I think the guys that solidify both being an offensive-minded genius and being a leader of men are guys like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel. Even though people think like, oh, he's weird and awkward, he galvanizes that team too. I think DeMeco Ryans, despite being a defensive-minded coach, I mean, I don't mind defensive-minded coaches, but I think that you also have you need the offensive innovation as well.
You got to have something to complement it.
Exactly. Case in point, you brought it up, Bobby Slowick, along with DeMeco Ryans. They're an aggressive offense. They didn't have a kicker on Sunday, and they went for it every time to go for two. You got to be comfortable in your offense. You got to be comfortable in your play calling. You got to be comfortable in your decision-making, whether you're not going for it on 4th and 2. I commend Brandon Staley for his aggressiveness, but also he does it way too much. Yes, Steven?
Don't you dare disrespect the Texans' backup running back, Dare Ogunbowale, and his ability to kick a field goal.
Did anyone disrespect Dare Ogunbowale?
You did. You said they didn't have a kicker.
A real kicker. He came in as an emergency kicker and did great.
He was an emergency kicker, and they won by 2, and he made a 3-point field goal. Put some respect on Dare's name. Where'd he come from? Why do I know him?
I was just simply saying that he was filling in for an injured kicker. This isn't a David Robinson situation. I'm not disrespecting the man. Dare Ogunbowale.
Okay.
Said his name.
Yeah. Ernie's bringing in some Tomlin. Yeah, Tomlin, Harbaugh. Sure. Tomlin's one of those guys for sure. Like, there's a reason why his teams just continue to get over 500 every single year. I mean, look at their record right now. I don't know. I mean, maybe they gotten lucky a little bit, but with an offense just as vanilla as Matt Canada's has been, something that we've called since the beginning of the season, just a boring offense. Yeah, you need somebody there. I think it's more important as the head coach. The type of guy that you're talking about, the leader. You got to have a mix. It can't just be one guy.
No, and I think a lot of defensive-minded coaches know that, and they need, like, Dan Campbell doesn't call plays. He did last year. He took over, I think, or maybe 2 years ago for Anthony Lynn. But yeah, I mean, he knows the offense needs to be aggressive, and the defense needs to play with a certain style of aggressiveness at the same time. Kyle wants the same thing. I think that when you look at it, at the end of the day, you just want someone that the team really buys in on, and they come together as a team and they trust the head coach. That's what everybody's looking for. And the bottom line is Josh McDaniels was not that guy.
Nope.
So the Raiders win 30-6. And then afterwards, they break out the stogies. Max Crosby lights it up. Everybody lights it up. He wanted Venmos so he can get his money back for all the cigars. Look, I'm all for having fun. It's the Raider way. Everybody would, back in the day in the 1970s and 80s would go out and, party after wins. Ken Stabler would, read the playbook by the light of the jukebox. I love all the stories. But they're only 4-5. And to me, the whole smoking of the cigars in the locker room thing, it was a very good symbolic gesture of turning the page of them coming together as a team. If they keep doing this, then I'll have more of a problem with it. I think it was fun just in the moment. But honestly, it looked like they were celebrating, a regular season win against the Giants. They're 4-5. It's not like they won the national championship with Joe Burrow. I just thought it was a little too much. I'm not going to hate on it too much, but I thought it was a little much to do the whole cigar thing.
I don't. They're undefeated without McDaniels. It's new life, man. They're moving on. Like, I think, like, you talked about the symbolism. I think that was symbolic of just what they weren't allowed to do. They weren't allowed to have fun in that damn locker room. Like those post-game speeches after a McDaniels win, it's just like, hey, that's good team football right there. That's how you do it, blah, blah, blah. It's just like boring this, boring that. Like, let the players be human beings and let them enjoy themselves. I don't think they really did, and it's pretty clear they didn't. So I loved it. But yeah, week after week it would get old though.
That's basically what I'm saying. Like, I'm okay. I understand, Steven. I get it. It was more of a, as I put it, symbolic gesture. They needed to move on from the stern ways of Josh McDaniels. But if it's going to be a routine thing, like I always think, like when baseball teams pour champagne on each other after winning, like, winning the division or winning like a wild card berth, I'm like, shouldn't you save that shit for when you win the championship? Kind of like when Patrick Beverly went crazy when they won the play-in tournament thing. It's like, all right, I understand that this is very hard. None of us are doing what they're doing. They're putting their bodies on the line each week to do this. It's very difficult. But also, I don't know, act like you've been there before. They're 4-5. When you get to a certain point and you make the playoffs, then you could do shit like that. But to me, I don't know. I thought it was too premature. I understand the circumstances and everything. I will say I'm cool with it now. If they beat the Jets and they do it again, I'm like, all right, let's stop this. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it'd be a little much, but I get why they did it after that game. I get it.
No, I do too. Okay, so we disagree on that a little bit. How do you feel about the way Caleb Williams handled himself after losing to Washington?
I don't think you should have done that in public.
Yeah.
I think that's something that the camera should have left off of him. I didn't need to see that.
I agree. Look, I watched him in person 2 weeks ago at Cal. And let me tell you, that was a day. From the protest on the field before the game, and that was, I guess, about a teacher at Cal. I don't know how those kids got on the field. But that was a crazy-ass game. There was a whole thing at halftime going on with USC not granted 1 second left. Then the band came on the field. The band came out on the field at Cal. And then the Pac-12 referees totally fucked it up. They had to give them 1 second and then play the third quarter. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in football. The decision to go for two, the back and forth. It was fun to see. And Caleb Williams is very talented. But I will say, and I don't know if the Raiders will get him now with the amount of wins they stacked up, but if they do find themselves with the first overall pick, they should take him. But he does need to mature. He's very talented. He's very close in his game to Mahomes. He's not Mahomes, but there are similarities. I see why they have those comparisons. And he's very young. And he was born in 2001, which is crazy to think about. He's only 21 years old. But I don't know. I did not like him losing that game to Washington, going up in the crowd, and then sobbing with his mom holding him and putting the paper over his face. If you're very emotional about a win or a loss in this instance, you can do that with your mother behind closed doors. But to get that on camera, I thought it was a little much. And then for him to say, in the post game presser, I'm going to go home and cuddle with my dogs and watch some shows. We've all been there. I can relate. But, same deal. When you're going to be a leader of men as a quarterback, I wouldn't say those things and I wouldn't do those things. And just little things that I think he needs to mature in his game and just being, a quarterback in the NFL.
Nah, I don't really think too much of it. I didn't think too deeply into it. I think a lot of guys react that way, just not in public. I kind of like that he felt vulnerable about it. I kind of like that he's honest, and really that shows that he cares, because it was a big game against Washington, and I personally like that. And I also saw something about Jason Whitlock calling him undraftable, and anything Jason Whitlock says, I'm vehemently opposed, just like Ziegler was vehemently opposed to signing Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, if Whitlock's calling him undraftable, then I say draft this guy first overall. Trade up to draft him if you need to. That's what I say.
Well, that's ridiculous. Whitlock's undraftable.
So we're not allowed to show it. So we're not allowed to show emotion. He needs to just be stone faced. He needs to just stand on the sideline and take it. He's not allowed to just have some sort of vulnerability after a loss.
I'm not saying that. We've seen people cry. Believe me, there's crying in all sports. It's very difficult week in and week out to do this. I just thought it was a little much. Kind of like the cigar smoking. You could definitely do that with your mother. Just when you do that in the stands in front of everyone, I just thought it was a little much. And it doesn't take anything away from his game. I think he'll be a fine quarterback and he'll be good. But there are just little things that I think he needs to mature about. Like, for instance, his father giving all the interviews saying that these are the teams that he wants to go to. Him saying that he wants equity in a team. There's just little things that I've noticed where I'm like, oof, this guy needs to put the team before anything else when he's going to get drafted. So these just little, like, it's not the end of the world. Believe me, I've cried with my mom, consoling me too. It happens. I get it. But there's just things that are recurring here where I'm like, ooh, this guy needs to show that he's all about football.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually cried in front of with my mom too much. I don't know. British people don't really show much emotion, but I'd say
wipe those tears.
That thing you mentioned earlier. Yeah, him wanting equity in the team, that's a bigger demerit in Mr. Schneebly's class as opposed to a gold star. You know what I'm saying?
Like, what kind of a school is this?
Yeah. Demerits? What kind of sick school is this?
Demerits.
Yeah, like, you're not David Beckham. You're not Lionel Messi. You're not getting part ownership in the team. That's exactly what those guys got in those contracts when they joined Major League Soccer. Like, what do you want? Some future option where you can own a partial stake in the team and potentially become the full-time owner once you're done playing? What the hell are you talking about? Hell no. You're not going to be with there. There's no guarantee that you're going to be with that team for, however long you're going to be there. You think there's equity? That was a bigger demerit to me than, crying after a loss. I get that. Like, yeah, but as long as he's not a sore loser, though, I want to know how he responds to it, because, like, I think we've seen the product of a sore loser, and I know that Kyler Murray's been gone all this time, and everyone's all stoked because he's activated a 53-man roster, and now he's back with the Cardinals. But let's not forget, like, how this guy reacted after they lost. Yep. Like, he did not take it the way that a leader's supposed to. And sure, Caleb Williams can do this in college, but in the NFL, you can't, because it's just a bad look. It's just bad optics, especially after a loss like that. You cannot look like that, not with the way that other guys carry themselves. Right now in college, don't have a problem with it. But, if he gets to the NFL, if he gets to the pros, walking off the field early, doing all those different things, yeah, I'm not okay with that. Not down. And
maybe that's too judgmental of me, because I'm expecting this guy. I'm basically looking at this guy as already an NFL player, and that's probably my problem. So everyone shows emotion. I've seen players after they lose a game hug their parents and bawl crying. He's not the first person to do this. I thought it was just kind of, to climb up in the stands and do it. Not the end of the world. And believe me, this is Jason Whitlock's way of saying, like, oh, he's not a man. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is
like how I turned it into you being on the same side as Whitlock.
No, I'll never be on the same side as Fatlock.
It's a magic trick that I just pulled off.
Yeah, I know. Well done for you. But No, what I'm saying is basically is just I want to see him mature, and this is just another thing that it's not the end of the world. Believe me, it's not. But there's just a lot of things that I've seen pop up in the news about him where I'm like, maybe it's not true. Maybe I'm reading too much Dove Kleiman bullshit. But I just want to see him mature and be the leader of men that he's going to be at whatever team drafts him number one. And he will be the first overall pick. Nothing's changing because he cried in the stands.
He did not exactly show that Washington QB, his last name. He didn't exactly show that big Penix energy.
Yeah, I was waiting. You know it.
Didn't exactly show it.
Oh,
BPE.
oh, you're saying Caleb Williams didn't show that big Penix energy? That big Penix energy.
Dude, that's I'm never gonna get that. Every time I see Desmond Howard, like I'm
Former
never gonna
Raider.
get it out of my head. Yeah, former Raider. I looked up his stats. Good God, 97? He was with the Raiders, I think. 98.
97. He was Al was the king of let me sign the Super Bowl MVPs to a big ass contracts.
Mm-hmm.
He signed Desmond Howard and Larry Brown. Who exactly? All right. Couple quick hits from week 9.
Quick hits. Come on.
All right. Got an extra hour of sleep, Steven. Did you watch that 6:30 London or not London, Germany game?
No.
You fool. Even though I did get the extra hour of sleep, I just put it on and went back to sleep. Chiefs, man. Chiefs we were talking about it, just a well-coached team by Andy Reid. Offense, despite not having the most talent in the world, they have the best tight end and the best quarterback, but skill-wise, they don't have the best receivers, but they make do. Andy Reid knows how to scheme it up. They're playing great defense. Everything is just simple for Mahomes. Check it down or go deep. They got up to a 21-point lead on the Dolphins. The Dolphins crept back in. Great play, by the way, for the Tyreek Hill fumble and return. But on the flip side, just with the Dolphins, I don't know if Tua is going to be big when it's, the big games. Everything needs to go well for him. It's very similar to Brock Purdy. Everything he needs to have the right players. He needs the wide receivers in the right spots. He needs the offensive line blocking for him. And on that final drive where they could have tied the game, he misses a wide open Cedric Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the very next play, the ball is, bad snap, 4th and 10. He fumbles it. The narrative for the Dolphins, and I'll wrap up here, Steven, sorry.
Yeah.
But the narrative for the Dolphins is they can't beat any of the good teams right now. And that's the case. They have kicked the rest of the league's ass. And then when it comes to the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs, they've gotten their ass kicked. And I love what Mike McDaniel said. Because most of the time, coaches, when they're asked these questions, they're like, that's bullshit. It doesn't matter who we play on our schedule. Mike McDaniel said, yeah, that's the truth right now. And if you want to change the narrative, then you got to do it yourself. So change the narrative.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of a team playing in Germany. It feels like, because the Chiefs have kind of been flailing too, it feels like that game when they scored the touchdown to make it 21-7. I mean, the defense was keeping them in it. Miami's known for playing complementary football for most of the time, obviously not against good teams, but that strikes me as a game that they could have come back in, and the Chiefs ended up getting a huge sack in that one, and it put them back at like whatever it was, 2nd and 27 or some absurd number like that. It was just a game changer. So I don't really know what to make of it. It's just the Chiefs are still a damn good football team, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to stop them. Did you see them singing Country Road, Take Me Home?
Yeah, they did that last year with the Seahawks and Bucks game.
Huh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Germany knows how to galvanize their fans.
I like how all of us in America are like, whoa, these Europeans know how to really celebrate. I'm like, no, they do more chanting than we do at games. I'm sorry, but fans over in Europe are better than we are. America's fans are very boring. All we want to do is, well, actually, this is not true because this is what they want to do as well. But all we want to do is drink beer, and eventually someone's going to get into a fight, and we want to watch it and record it. They just get into a fight, but they just don't record it at those games. But they're just constantly chanting and doing all those things. I think here in America we can adopt that. We need not be scared of what others think. We need to start chants during games. I want to see that during Warriors games, just something stupid with everyone clapping. Dude, one time I had a whole car ride home. It was like 55 minutes. It was from San Francisco to Campbell. Had a whole car ride home. I just thought of chants for the Warriors. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start something new. I'm going to go into the crowd. I'm going to tell them how to do these chants. I'm going to do them for Curry. I'm going to do them for Draymond Green. Never happened. That was like 4 years ago.
Jesus, Steven.
What?
I loved how motivated you were, then you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Dude, it's just, they have more fun at those games. Like,
let me hear some of these chants you came up with.
No.
See, you're afraid.
I am afraid. I don't want to do
You're
it.
everything that you were saying you hate.
Yeah, I know. We're just not creative. They're all creative. They have different songs for their players. They'll fit them into, like to the melodies of certain classics. And there's just no shame. I think we need to adopt that here in America, but that's never going to happen.
Well, we have the wave.
Oh,
No. Don't say I want chance and all this fan camaraderie and then be like, oh, the little thing the A's came up with, the wave. Everyone does it.
what does the wave do?
It causes everyone to get up out of their seats and then sit back down.
No noise is
And
being
it looks
made.
like a wave.
No noise is being made. It's distracting.
Yes, a ton of noise is being made.
It's
You hear
distracting.
the woo?
It's distracting.
You hear the woo.
It's distracting
To who?
to the fans. I just want to sit down and watch. I don't want to get up. Like, stop waving.
It's fan participation, Steven. You need to get on board.
Ugh.
I bet you they're not going to do that shit in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Josh Dobbs, probably the story of the weekend, and a great pickup for the Vikings. Right away, Jared Hall gets hurt, filling in for Kirk Cousins, and then Josh Dobbs just got there last Tuesday, fills in for the game. It was, not as good as Baker Mayfield just coming the day before and kicking the Raiders' ass, but Josh Dobbs, very impressive, and it was actually easy for him to actually do well in that game because there was no game plan for the Falcons to play against Josh Dobbs. There was no spy on him defensively, but he played a great game. Didn't know his teammates' names, but very impressive for him to just get there. He's been the emergency quarterback for 3 different teams this season. He went from, the Titans to the Cardinals and then to the Vikings. And yeah, I just thought it was a great story for him to come into that game and win it for them.
No, it was awesome. You got to give the Falcons credit for forcing a couple of turnovers. Obviously, the Vikings. You got to give them credit. The defense, but good God, Arthur Smith. Like, you go 3 straight times, you're going from the one, and you don't use Bijan Robinson at all.
I don't know what's up with that.
It's great that Josh Dobbs, but the kind of other story of that game is just Arthur Smith didn't even get outcoached. He just outcoached himself.
Yeah. No, I agree. And he was so appalled by his coaching performance that he shaved his mustache. So, yeah, the Falcons should be a lot better than they are right now. They're definitely a team I will watch for this offseason that's going to need to upgrade the quarterback position. Maybe make a trade for a veteran. Who knows? But they should be giving the ball to Bijan Robinson on the goal line. I don't know. He's out thinking himself. And also, why aren't they using Cordero Patterson more? He's still on the team.
Yeah, maybe he took a step back. What was his injury? I don't even know what his injury was.
I don't know if he was injured. There's not really he was the emergency running back on the team.
Right.
He kind of became the Deebo Samuel, but he was Deebo Samuel before Deebo Samuel. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about these Falcons. I have a lot of talent, but I don't know.
Yeah, not being utilized the right way.
Ravens had a very impressive win over the Seattle Seahawks. And you don't believe in the Ravens, Steven, because in their 2 most impressive wins this season, where they kicked the Lions' ass and the Seahawks' ass, you picked the Lions and Seahawks at both times. So let me ask you, what is it about the Ravens that you don't like?
The inconsistency.
Yeah.
The inconsistency of what they bring. I don't know why I thought the Seahawks were going to win. I just had a good feeling about it. Especially when they needed, when the 49ers on their bye week, Seahawks felt, okay, you know what, we could really take a good lead here in the NFC West if we get a win. So I felt like they had that motivating factor behind them. But the Ravens, I should have taken into account that they were playing at home. God, I just kept on looking back, and yeah, I had them in the quad box, I had them in the corner.
Yeah.
I just kept on looking back, and I was like, oh my God, it's just the Ravens keep on having the ball. They keep scoring. Shout out to Gus Edwards. He was fantastic, but it's just the inconsistency with the Ravens. And that's why I sort of believe in them, but I also sort of don't. They're 7-2 right now. We've seen them do this in the regular season before. Are they going to flip the switch in the playoffs? That remains to be seen, but I think I got to start taking the Ravens a little more seriously.
I mean, they have been dominant at home, and those 2 wins, 38-6 over the Lions and 37-3 over the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Can't discount them. They are playing great defense, and Lamar Jackson's actually doing a very good job. His rushing numbers are not the same as in years past, but he's passing the ball very well. Odell got his first touchdown since tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They're playing well. But if you had to ask me right now who's the best team in the AFC North, despite all that, I'm still taking the Bengals. They look damn near impressive. Not damn near impressive. They are impressive.
Yeah.
But we'll get to them in a little bit here.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the Ravens defense. Like that's like that. I mean, we're talking probably the best in the league right now. They're fewer averages yards per play. They have more sacks than anyone. They've only given up 6 touchdowns all year.
Ooh, wow.
Or excuse me, passing touchdowns all year. And then what's the other one? 6, and then they've actually given up quite a few rushing. So I just think we could put them up there among the best in the league.
Yeah, definitely. There's no argument about that. Are they the best defense in football? Right now, probably. They probably have more impressive defensive outputs. The Browns, very good, but, beaten up on a, Arizona Cardinals team with Clayton Thune at quarterback with 58 yards of offense is like I said earlier, pistol whipping a blind kid. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Ravens are in discussion for best defense. They run the ball very well, and they gashed the Seahawks. Leonard Williams, I don't know if he played that much, but the addition of him did not help. I think Geno's kind of having a rough season so far this year, but they're still in the mix. There probably will be a playoff team in the NFC with how little competitiveness there is in that conference. But I think it was telling of the Ravens. I think it was also kind of telling of the Seahawks.
Yeah. I mean, those 2 teams are going to be in the playoffs. It's just, how are they actually are they going to play? Because they need to play at their best. Like, that's the thing, is they can't make any mistakes in the playoffs. Other teams, it feels like they have a little more margin for error, where these 2 teams don't.
Well, you think it's definite they're making the playoffs? The Ravens?
Yeah. If they're 7-2 right now, man. Come on.
Believe me, I know, and they look impressive. But that division is really competitive right now. Best in football. I think all of those teams will be in the playoffs today if the season ended, which I love that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But probably the weakest out of all 4 are the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is the way that they play offense. But I don't know, man. Bengals, Browns, and Ravens all seem equally good to me, and I probably put the Bengals in front of everybody.
We haven't even mentioned the Steelers in that too.
Yeah,
all of those teams.
I mean, I would even maybe say the Steelers have the best defense because they're carrying them to wins.
Yeah. Think about it. If the season ended today, the Bills wouldn't even be a playoff team.
We'll get to that. I just want to give praise to C.J. Stroud. 470 passing yards, rookie record, 5 touchdown passes. This guy, and along with the Texans defense, and mainly the attitude and the leadership of D'Amico Ryans, is why they're at 500 right now. That was very impressive. We talked about them not having a kicker. With all due respect to Dare, what's his name again?
Ogunbowale.
He is right now looking like the best quarterback in that draft. And I even said I may like C.J. Stroud a little bit more than Bryce Young. And I don't think it's even close right now. Bryce Young is struggling. You watch that Colts game, he threw a pick 6 to Kenny Moore twice. and I'm not seeing a lot of improvement each week. It's going to take some time, but right now, I think it's pretty clear that C.J. Stroud is the better quarterback than Bryce Young.
This will play into my overreactions because
Ooh.
I think that he's having you know what? I'll get to it in the overreaction.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles still do enough to win, and this is probably their most impressive win of the season. I think offensively and defensively they played pretty well. Got a little scared there before halftime with Jalen Hurts. We thought he was actually done for. I thought so, and then he got up, limped off, and came back in the game. Was fine. Dallas still has late game execution problems, and they lost this game by the thinnest of inches. Whether it was on the goal line, they didn't get the 2-point conversion, or what's his name, the tight end Schoonmaker, his knee was down before he broke the plane. Dak Prescott's foot was out of bounds before he got the 2-point conversion. They false started and fumbled their way to get the ball going backwards when they were trying to score for the lead there. Everything was going in their favor. James Bradbury was getting hurt. Darius Slay was getting hurt, and they just couldn't get it done. So I think that the Cowboys will be a playoff team. They are impressive, and Micah Parsons is, right up there with the defensive player of the year discussions, but they're not as good as the Eagles. I think right now the Eagles have the most talent in the NFL, and that equates to them being the best team. But if they had to play the Chiefs again, which they will in a couple weeks, I don't know who wins. Probably right now I would say the Chiefs.
Dude, it doesn't matter. They just keep winning. Like the
They
Eagles
do.
just keep winning. Like there's no other way around it. I mean, even though Jalen Hurts, it just doesn't feel like he's played well up to his standard. Like MVP front runner, he hasn't looked like that at all this year. I think with their run game has really been like the catalyst for their offense, and obviously AJ Brown has been fantastic. But the Eagles just kept on letting the Cowboys back into this game, and the Cowboys could not take advantage. And I mean, it was so close. I can't even go back and think of the numerous plays in the final drive that, led to Dak Prescott having to heave it to CeeDee Lamb. But it's just, you just can't discount the Eagles from winning. Like, no matter how many ways you slice it, they didn't do this in this game, they got lucky, blah, 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 whatever. They're 8-1. Who cares? They're the best team in the NFL right now in terms of record. And I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's something that you could just, anyone can just scoff at when just looking at that Eagles team, even though it doesn't even feel like they've been one of the best teams in the NFL yet. Here they are.
Yep, I agree. A team that got off to a rough start that's playing really well right now are the Bengals. And I think Joe Burrow, with how bad he looked at the beginning of the season, is playing that well right now. And I think maybe he's the leader in the clubhouse for MVP. I know that they're not leading their division right now, but they're playing really, really impressive. Back-to-back weeks, against the Niners defense of the Bills, Joe Burrow looks great. So they're playing good football. I still think that they're the better team in the AFC North as opposed to the Ravens or Browns or Steelers. And they might even be the best team in the AFC when it's all said and done. I would love to see what's going to happen when they play the Chiefs. So yeah, that's what I think about the Bengals right now.
God, man, I texted you, and I might have been. I mean, I know we're going to do overreactions, but I might have been overreacting, but I don't think I was, because I really did feel it in the moment. When I saw Joe Burrow hit that I think it was a 3rd and 6 to T. Higgins down the right sideline, it's what led them to a field goal in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You see him getting protection. You just see him having a split second of time, and then you remember that he has 2 wide receiver ones on his team with Chase and Higgins. Like, Higgins is going to be a wide receiver one wherever he goes. He's not going to be a Bengal next year. But it was the throw where he just fits it in this window in between the cornerback and safety. It's just a perfect pass, and it's a first down. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I watched Burrow against the 49ers, and we talked about that throw that he made to Jamar Chase on the sideline there, where Chase just got 2 toes in. Same thing with Higgins. He's just as long as he's healthy and the offensive line gives him protection, it's hard to see any defense stopping this offense. It really is.
I agree. On the flip side, the Bills. I thought they would find a way to win this game coming off the Thursday night game. They looked terrible against they looked fine for 3 quarters against the Buccaneers, and then they slowly just got out of that game. I mean, if you really think about it, the Bills, if they get the offense or the defensive pass interference call in the end zone against the Giants, and Chris Godwin turns around and looks for that Hail Mary, they're in deep shit right now. And I think they're in deep shit right now to begin with. They're 5-4. They have not looked good, really in any of their games, with the exception of, I mean, they haven't looked good since probably kicking the Dolphins' ass, and that was when they were healthy. Obviously, the injuries to Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano have been really, demoralizing for their defense. Their offense gets to sluggish starts. Stephon Diggs is looking more and more frustrated with Josh Allen. Josh Allen doesn't look great right now. And I think he's regressing as a quarterback. I think the same could be said for Justin Herbert. We'll get to him in a little bit here, but I don't know, man. The Bills, I think at the end of the day, have enough talent to make the playoffs. There's times, you look at Von Miller and he just looks slow on the defensive line right now. He does not look like he's getting off the pass rush. I don't know about him. But as far as the Bills, I think they'll be a playoff team, but with what they were expected to do this season, I don't know, man. I think that they could maybe make a change, and Sean McDermott could possibly lose his job if this team does not at least go to an AFC Championship game or something.
Yeah. You mentioned the missing players on the defense. I think that's the key element here. But on the offensive side, Josh Allen's struggling, but they're not getting any consistency in the run game either. James Cook, I was probably wrong. He's not terrible. He's not bad, but I mean, he's not this every down back that's going to strike fear into the opponents where it's like you got to zone in on him, because I think defenses right now are more focused on Stephon Diggs and being able to stop him from doing whatever he does. I mean, when you watch Diggs, it's like every catch, it feels like, is some sort of contested catch where he has to make some sort of a spectacular play to get out of it. I think he's actually been unreal this season, but no consistency in the run game again, no threat there. And at the end of that game in the second half, there was just none of it. And when you're down by 2 scores and you got to force Josh Allen to play hero ball, it's not working. And, Josh Allen's more culpable though. Allen has not played that great. He's not back to being the Josh Allen that he was in his first and second year, but there's that regression that we kind of saw in the first game, and maybe we got fooled after that. Josh Allen, he's not that bad as he was against the Jets, but maybe he's not as good as he led on those first couple of games in the month of October, because this month of November, it's just been a different team. 2 out of the past 3 games they've lost.
And I don't think he's played his best football under Ken Dorsey as his offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't look the same like when Brian Daboll was his head coach, or his offensive coordinator. So I don't know. They're not getting rid of him. Sent him to a huge contract, and he's the face of the franchise, and he's the reason why they're getting a brand new stadium. If they don't meet expectations, I would not be surprised if they move on from him, or Sean McDermott, I'm saying.
Do you think that Josh Allen goes home to Haley Steinfeld and she's like, "What's the deal with your style of play?"
I hope so. I would hope that she talks in a Jerry Seinfeld voice all the time. What's the deal with you and Stephon Diggs? And then Josh Allen, for whatever reason, has his hair up and he does the Kramer thing. Oh, I got something to say. Finally, the Chargers-Jets game last night. Simply put, the Chargers did enough to win that game, but they look terrible too. Defensively, they look like they always should have been from the get-go. How many sacks? 8 sacks?
Yeah.
Joey Bosa doing his thing. Khalil Mack doing his thing. The new guy, too. I don't know what his name is. I'll probably butcher his name. Hold on.
Who's your guy?
Who's my guy? Tua Pualoto, whatever. Joey Bosa, 2.5 sacks. Khalil Mack, 2 sacks. I'm sorry, I'm totally butchering this guy's name. The Chargers pass rusher. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know his name. I'm not going to try and pronounce it.
Yeah, you're better than me.
Mm-hmm.
But the defensive line was playing good, and the biggest takeaway I have from the Jets Chargers game is I go back and forth with this because their defense is so good, and they have playmakers in Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. There are times where I'm like, damn, this Jets team would have been so lethal with Aaron Rodgers. But then you watch the offensive line, and there are times where I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. I don't know if they were like this. That was the biggest question mark for them going into the season. And it happened right away. Leonard Floyd sacks Aaron Rodgers, and he tears his Achilles. And I know there's just all this talk about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's going to come back. He's going to save the Jets season. I don't know. And I would wait until his offensive line is really improved before he comes back. Because while Zach Wilson was sacked 8 times last night, he's much younger than Aaron Rodgers. He can move around. Aaron Rodgers can't. And it's going to be worse when he's coming back with that Achilles. I think this whole Jets offensive line was a ticking time bomb for Aaron Rodgers to get hurt. And I think Troy Aikman said that on the broadcast after the game ended last night. So I would wait for Aaron Rodgers to be 100% healthy and improve the hell out of that offensive line, and then go get, Mike Evans or Devontae Adams if that's going to happen next. But that was a big question mark going into the season. I don't know if the Jets are having the success right now that they're going to that we all expected them to under this offensive line.
I think that's who Robert Saleh was calling out. Look, I'm not going to even try and talk about the game. Like you and Evan texted both of us because he's a Chargers guy and he knows that we're the only ones that will listen to his Chargers takes and actually bear it. So shout out to him. But like I wasn't paying attention when Keenan Allen made this godlike catch, which was fantastic. I don't know,
come on, that was a sick catch.
It was sick. I wasn't watching it live.
Oh.
I rewatched it. And I was like, damn, I get why he texted us about that.
You were more concerned about Arnold feeding his donkey.
That's the thing is like I was more interested in the Manning cast. This was a Manning cast game, but I was focused on the Robert Saleh afterwards. And I love this journey that we've been on where Saleh tries to convince you that Wilson's not as bad as you think. It's like Arthur Smith going on his Desmond Ridder tour. And I think the way Robert Saleh put it, this was not the worst that Zach Wilson's ever played. It's like, you think that's a compliment? Like, what? I don't think.
No, but I
think that means what you think it means, Rob.
But what also was not. I mean, I also understand what he's getting, what he's saying. Like, what do you expect these coaches to say sometimes? Like, do you want them to shit on their players?
No, but I love it. I love the tour that he's on right now, where he's trying to just keep it positive when there's nothing.
Because that's all he's got. Because he's extremely positive.
That's what's funny.
I know, but like, believe me,
everyone knows Zach Wilson stinks. Everyone knows this offensive line stinks.
I would just love. This is where we should get Hard Knocks. Like, we'll get Hard Knocks with the in-season one with the Dolphins, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
They make that announcement. I would love to see the Jets Hard Knocks now, where it's behind closed doors, and Robert Saleh is screaming in the mirror to himself, "Fuck! This is not what we wanted. This was supposed to be a Super Bowl team, and it went away instantly."
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, they're saying all the right things right now to the media, but this is not what they wanted. So he tries to put on a happy face and talk to the media while God, why do I always forget his name? Joe Douglas just sits there in the office thinking, what could have been? I put this great team together, and the one part I was lazy about with the offensive line is now fucking us over.
Yeah. There's no point in bringing him back. Joe Douglas, in the tier with you and Brian Dable, bald guys with beards.
Okay. Well, Jesus, I think I look better than those guys, but I will say,
Man,
Robert's.
you have bald heads and beards. It's not a fault to your own. It's just like, I'm not saying you look the same.
Okay, but you never say I look like Robert Saleh.
Ooh, Robert Saleh is in that tier too.
Or Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott doesn't have a beard.
It's a little scruff.
Nah, that doesn't count. Sean McDermott, no, he's in the tier below. He's just bald.
Okay, can I say this about Robert Saleh?
Yeah.
His beard game is strong. Last night in the post game I was watching, whatever he's putting on it, the beard oil, it looks good. Really good.
Yeah, he gets someone to groom that. I mean, he doesn't look like Xerxes anymore. He looks like Xerxes' uncle.
Yeah, it's an upgrade.
What was that, Ernie? You're saying Langford's a professional? Yeah.
Well, because you didn't butcher the Chargers defensive player's name like I
Yeah,
did.
yeah. Who's my guy? I'm
Okay,
not gonna,
by the end of the night, I'm going to say that guy's name right.
Thule not gonna work here anymore anyway.
Hold on, I'm going to find it. I'm going to pronounce it correctly. I promise you. All right, Steven, give us your overreactions.
Oh, okay. All right. You know what? This deserves a little bit of music. And you know what? Just because you just mentioned it, yeah, we're going Hard Knocks.
All right.
It's also because I got that loaded and I don't want to play that boring rock music anymore. All right. So my overreactions, I guess, kind of play into the biggest storylines from week 9. But Arthur Smith, Falcons head coach, that seat is getting mighty hot right about now as his team started 4-5 and they just lost. Who'd they just lose to? Good God, why am I blanking on this? They just lost to the Josh Dobbs-led Vikings. Derek, overreaction, underreaction. Arthur Smith on the hot seat.
I am going to say he is not on the hot seat. Despite what's gone on with the Falcons this year, I never really had them as being one of the best teams in the NFC. I thought they'd be a sneaky wildcard team. I still think they can because that division is terrible right now. So I think he's a good coach. I think he's just shooting himself in the foot with some dumb decisions. If he gets a better quarterback, I think they'll be one of the best teams in the NFC. So I'm going to say that's a overreaction.
I agree. I think that Arthur Smith should stand pat with him because even though he's kind of made a fool of himself at points this season, I think he still has upside as a head coach. He's not like Josh McDaniels. All right. Next overreaction or underreaction. The Ravens are the best team the AFC has to offer.
Overreaction. Very, very impressive wins over the Lions and the Seahawks at home. But like I said earlier, I would still take the Bengals basically because of the quarterback position. I believe in Joe Burrow more than Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson's having a fine season, but on a consistency level as far as being a passer, I'll go with Joe Burrow. And I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Ravens. Hell, I might even take the Jaguars over the Ravens at this point. I might even take the Bills if they were in a game together. I would take the Bills over the Ravens. I think the Ravens are playing very good football. I think they beat up on other NFC teams that maybe we're kind of overhyping, but I don't think they're the best team in the AFC. I think it's an overreaction.
I agree. There's something about the Ravens, man. I don't know what it is. It's not even Lamar Jackson's problem. I actually think Lamar Jackson's a really good quarterback, but I've just seen those random games where nothing is going right.
But is he good enough to win you games in the playoffs?
Well, what if they get the 1 seed? Maybe give them a bye.
That could help.
Maybe
I mean, they had that before. Yeah, they had that before, Steven.
Did they?
They were the number 1 seed in 2019 and lost to the Titans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was that poop year?
Poop year? No,
Yeah.
that was the next year.
Ah, damn. Nah, one of the great
I know
moments.
my poops.
One of the great moments in NFL history. They should do a football life about it. Okay.
I wish. These football lives suck now. George Kittle. We're having a football life on George Kittle.
Yeah, I know. Even though it's
Why?
we get a funny story from CJ Beathard, let's just talk about how ridiculous it is that we're getting a show that's meant to be about football's history and George Kittle's getting a feature on it. Love you, George, but a football life.
NFL Films ruined that show. I'm sorry.
Swing and a miss.
Yep.
The Minnesota Vikings, despite being lost Kirk Cousins for the year, they'll squeak in with that 7th and final wild card spot because the NFC, if you look below that, the Vikings currently the 7th seed.
Yep.
Right now with a 5-3 record. 5-4, excuse me. Below them, the Commanders 4-5, Falcons 4-5, Bucks 3-5, Pack 3-5, Rams 3-6, Giants 2-7, Bears 2-7, Panthers 1-7, Cardinals 1-8. And the Vikings, will they squeak into the 7th spot in the NFC wildcard? Overreaction, underreaction?
I would say that is not an overreaction. I think that they very well could make the playoffs, and I think Kevin O'Connell is coaching his ass off. I think this team totally changed once they played the Niners. It is, I think I would say it's definite. If Kirk Cousins was still healthy, kind of leaves you kind of questioning what's going to go on with Josh Dobbs. But they're playing damn good football, and they're getting Justin Jefferson back. I don't think it's crazy. I think they very well could be a wild card team. I think the Lions win the division, but I think the Vikings could very well be a playoff team.
I mean, you want the 1 seed, obviously, to get the bye, but being the 2 seed in the playoffs wouldn't be too bad if Vikings are your first matchup. All right, moving on. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think that's an overreaction either. I think I'm looking at the teams before. Maybe the Commanders, because Sam Howell's getting better, and maybe he can win them a few games.
I don't think they want to make the playoffs.
Right? Maybe
They
can win a few
traded
games.
away their guys, and I think Ron Rivera. I think they want to fire Ron Rivera. Magic Johnson tweets out like every week something negative about the team.
Yeah, and by the way, the Falcons still have a few more division games to play for the remainder of the season. So
yeah, I still think they're going to. I think, you know what? I'll say this: Falcons and Vikings, they both make the playoffs.
Okay, interesting. What was my other one here? Oh, C.J. Stroud. When it's all said and done, could have the best rookie season we've ever seen from a quarterback.
Stat-wise,
yeah,
because other rookie quarterbacks have gone to the conference championships and lost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see
stat-wise.
I don't see the Texans making the playoffs, but stat-wise, yes. What has he got? 1 pick on the whole season?
He has 1 pick.
What's his touchdown to pick ratio?
14 to 1.
To 1? That's impressive. Statistically, yes.
I mean,
As far as accomplishments, his wins and whatnot, no.
yeah, but he's not. I mean, the comp here is Cam Newton, because Cam Newton had maybe the best statistical rookie season that we've ever seen. Robert Griffin was right up there, but Cam Newton, damn close. Obviously, not counting what he did rushing the football, but passing, he had just over 4,000 yards. C.J. Stroud currently at 2,270, and Cam threw for 21 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. C.J. Stroud's only at 14-1. I mean, there haven't been as many great rookie seasons as you may think, because as those guys that have gone to the AFC Championship before, like you mentioned, not that great statistically. Like C.J. Stroud this year, we're seeing him on a historic pace to potentially like have an all-time year in a rookie year.
Yep. No,
Crazy.
I think I thought your reaction was going to be, are the Panthers going to regret taking Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud? And I would say at the moment, that may be accurate.
I don't even think that qualifies for an overreaction, underreaction. I think that's a very measured take that a lot of people should have. Bryce Young, like, hey, man, I know we're looking at Russell Wilson and like, hey, these quarterbacks that are 6 feet tall could still thrive. Bryce Young not looking good
He's not.
He's not looking like a number 1 overall pick right now.
Nope.
He's looking how I think a lot of people. He's looking how people thought Russell Wilson would look.
Yeah,
like that's how he's looking right now. Third and final one. Let's just give the Eagles the 1 seed in the NFC. Call it a day. Call it a season. They get the 1 seed. No more chances of anyone else.
Overreaction.
They
could easily lose to the Chiefs, and then the Niners could beat the Eagles, and then we're all, the Niners are back in the 1 seed race. If you look at the Eagles' schedule, they play the Chiefs, they play the Bills, they play the Niners, they play the Seahawks, they play the Cowboys again. They very well could not get the number 1 seed.
It's crazy to think about.
Yep. What do you think?
That's it. No, I think you can. I think you can give them the 1 seed. I know their schedule's hard, but for whatever reason, they just continue to pull away with wins. And I don't think the Chiefs are as good as we're making them out to be. I think they're going to lose to a team like the Eagles. I don't know what it is, man. They just have that winning formula. They just know how to do it. And there's no real reason that I'm giving right now other than they have that it factor, which is probably the most frustrating thing that can ever come out of someone's mouth when they're talking about another team, because I'm not giving you anything tangible, but whatever.
You know that game's going to be on Monday Night Football?
What?
Eagles at Chiefs?
Oh, good one.
Will you watch the broadcast as opposed to the Manningcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to actually listen to the plays and get the breakdown of it instead of hearing some interview where Arnold's like, I found the motivation to work out as I just woke up in the morning and I said to myself, I want my muscles to get bigger.
By the way, the Sly Stone documentary on Netflix now.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I watched the Arnold one.
Sylvester Stallone is a great story, but compared to Arnold, no comparison.
Oh, dude, their rivalry is ridiculous. I told you about it. I need more guns. I need to kill more people than he did in the last movie. It's a friendly rivalry, but it was ridiculous.
Here you go. You got Jingle All the Way instead, where you're fighting the Big Show and a Santa
I'm not the
Con.
pervert. I just want to get Turbo Man. Thule, 2E, Poo, Toe, 2. Or Low 2. Hold on. Thule, 2E, Poo, Low 2. That's the name of the man on the Chargers that I butchered earlier.
You nailed it.
Thule, 2E, Pulo 2.
Good work.
Thank you.
Good work.
I am reading it phonetically.
Say
Anything
it fast. Can you say it 5 times fast now?
Nope, I cannot. Not even gonna try. Thule.
You ever seen Baby's Day Out?
You've referenced that movie. I want to say like 3 times on this podcast.
It's in my head because my brother just mentioned it. He watched it with his kids. You're like the robber who's trying to read a book when he doesn't know how to read.
You know how hard it is to read that guy's name?
Manny and Baby Boo strolling through. It's a great movie. Great flick.
Anything else you want to bring up, Steven?
I got nothing except Baby's Day Out is awesome. And Jesse saw, that whole thing you see on Twitter where it's like, what was it? Guys can just sit around quoting movies for hours and just have the best time.
Yep.
Yeah, my brother came over for the Raider game, and I think at halftime he was talking about Baby's Day Out, and because he watched it, and we both just like kept on reciting lines from the movie and cracking up. And then Jesse's just sitting there like, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Dude, that's something dudes can always do. Like it literally could just, like, me and my high school friends, we could literally just talk in Family Guy or Simpsons or SpongeBob quotes, and people around us be like, "What is wrong with you, guy?"
Baby's Day Out's a weird one though.
What's up?
Baby's Day Out's a weird one.
Can't Joe Montana?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the bad guy in it.
Oh yeah.
What was I gonna bring? Oh, I was gonna bring up just a little pop culture catch up. You and Jesse watched Toast of London, right?
Huh?
Toast of London. Did I recommend that to you?
No.
The one with the actor Stephen Toast on Netflix.
Oh God, you recommended that a long time ago.
Well, there's a reboot of it called Toast of Tinseltown, where he goes to L.A. Just as hilarious. It was a good. It was a good recommendation. Wouldn't you say, Stephen?
It's an interesting recommendation. I don't know if a good one.
Oh, it's a great silly show.
You have
yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
You have said it. Yeah, that guy's underrated.
Ray Purchase. Ray bloody Purchase. See, we can just quote movies and TV shows. All right. Before we get out of here, I want to bring something up that kind of bothered me today, and for good reason. I woke up this morning and saw a very disturbing story about protests that are going on in LA, going on between obviously Israel and Palestine. And in Thousand Oaks, there was a 69-year-old man who was protesting, and he got hit with a megaphone and fell, and his head cracked on the pavement, and he is dead. His name is Paul Kessler. And this is just one of many things that's going on right now with anti-Semitism, with this whole, feud. And it, whatever side you're on, okay, but I just don't like what's going on. And I just wish that more people would speak out, and we have less of this in our country right now. So
yeah, it's awful, man. I don't know. It's amazing how we managed to somehow still divide ourselves over something that's happening in a totally different area. And like, I understand what it means, but like just the idea that somehow we're still fighting over one side over the other when just the bottom line is that people have been getting killed, are getting killed in the Middle East and throughout this conflict, and then even at home too. It's all such a mess.
It is,
All a
and
mess.
it's hard to see, and you know, I just don't like it. I've seen
Mhm.
a rise in anti-Semitism, and I'm not. I mean, it sickens me. So,
Yeah.
whatever side of the argument you're on, I respect, but at the same time, we just all need to come together as people. I think this is getting disturbing and disgusting.
Yeah, it's all gotten just way out of hand.
Yep. So rest in peace to Paul Kessler, the poor man that was just protesting and then was killed. Um, we will be back on Saturday. Steven, you're going to be out of town, correct?
Correctamundo.
Okay. Well, me and Alon will take over. We will preview the matchups for Week 10. Where are you going this weekend? Oh, Austin, right?
Yeah.
Dude, have a great time. I love Austin. It's my old stomping grounds. You guys go check out 6th Street or Rainy Street?
I think we're gonna check out maybe 6th Street. I thought.
If
I don't know.
if you want a more laid back vibe, Rainy Street's the way to go.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Taking that into account.
All right. And on that note, thanks to just the Ernie today. One Ernie. Thank you for Ernie and Jesse, the lone people on the chat. Everybody had
Yes.
plans tonight with no sports going on.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
On that note, we'll see you Saturday. Steven, say what you always say.
Sharks are up 1-0. They might actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they might actually
Good.
win a game.
Good for them.
How about that? Still plenty of time left. It's in the second period. 5 minutes to go. All right. It's just our opinion, man. See you later. Bye.